Hello folks, the name is Lorenzo, welcome to my channel and today I want to discuss human rights. I have decided to release this video on the 23rd of March because, well, a year ago on the 23rd of March was when Boris went on the telly declaring that we needed to go in lockdown for 3 weeks in order to flatten the curve. Now, I'm not great at math, but last time I checked, in a year there are 52 weeks, so we are kind of like 49 past due date. Anyway, one thing that is kind of worrying me is that loads of people are putting loads of trust in the government, and they are not really paying attention to what is the legislation. They're being absolutely surprised at police repression, and I'd like to start by saying we are in interesting times. And it's all a game of smoke and mirrors. And don't trust anything that anyone says. Me neither. Matter of fact, any time I make a statement, I will have the link in the description to prove my point. Don't believe anyone unless you have hard evidence and research that evidence. Have a look into everything. And in this case, one of the reasons that prompt me to discuss this topic is that we had last week the Sarajevo protest, and now I fully support with the protesters. I think that anyone, if they so inclined to protest, they should have a voice. They should be able to do so. What really struck me as weird, though, was that I was discussing it with some people. For some reason, some of them they were under the impression that at present it is legal to protest, and I tried to make a point saying that no, it's not. And I'm going to go through the legislation with you in a moment to prove the point. And I had a discussion with someone else, and he was very upset about how the police really clamped down hard on these women that were protesting. And while I'm pretty upset myself, one point that I try to make is that for how much I disagree with what they have done, that they were actually doing the job. They were just following orders. I think you might have heard that before. And I couldn't get a point through for some reason. And so yeah, I'm gonna go through all the details in this video. And now, in order to understand human rights in the UK, again, go back to the legislation. The Human Rights Act was enacted in 1998, and it was enacted under the European Convention of Human Rights. We were in the EU, by the way, we are still under the European Court for Human Rights, and so we made law in the UK with what was the European Act, the European Convention of Human Rights. And I'm going to read it to you. I have a few idea that I would like to bring forward afterward, but at the moment I just want to go literally through what it says because I think that that is the important thing. We need to understand exactly what says the law and what they believe our rights actually are. Now, I've printed the European Convention of Human Rights because it's just an easier format to read. But I'm gonna put a link in description to the UK Act as well, so that you can verify both. Now, this is not just about the right to protest. This is a lot deeper. And I'm going in order. So, Article 4, prohibition of slavery and forced labor. There is a lot of protest now going on because we have a past of slavery and all of that. Let's see what it says. It says that no one shall be required to perform forced or compulsory labor. Fair enough. It also says that for the purpose of this article, the term forced or compulsory labor shall not include any service accepted in case of an emergency or calamity threatening the life or well-being of the community. it's almost like in a COVID pandemic, if they so wanted, they could put us to forced labor, according to the European legislation. So yeah, this actually doesn't just apply to Britain, this applies to the whole of Europe that has agreed to the European Convention on Human Rights. But let's go forward. Article 5, right to liberty and security. Everyone has the right to liberty and security of person. No one shall be deprived of his liberty, save in the following cases and in accordance with the procedure prescribed by law. Case E. The lawful detention of persons for the prevention of the spreading of infectious disease. So you have a right to freedom, unless there happens to be a pandemic, in which case, if they want, they can lawfully imprison you. It's for your own good. Article 8. Right to respect for private and family life. Everyone has the right to respect for his private and family life, his own and his correspondence, except for the protection of health. This means that until the COVID pandemic is going on, or at least until they tell you we have a COVID pandemic, you don't have a right to your private, to your family, to your correspondence. If they want to open your mail, they have a right to do so. If they want to enter your house without a warrant, by law, as written by the European Union and accepted by the British Parliament, they have a right to your own house. Well, mine too. That is the problem, and I don't really appreciate these kind of things. Well, let's come to the last two, and these are quite juicy as well. Article 10, freedom of expression. Everyone has the right to freedom of expression, except the exercise of these freedoms, since it carries with its duties and responsibilities, may be subject to such formalities, conditions, restrictions, or penalty as are prescribed by law and are necessary in a democratic society. In the interest of national security, territorial integrity, or public safety, for the prevention of disorder or crime, for the protection of health and morals. You have a right to freedom of expression unless they decide that your freedom of expression doesn't agree with the protection of health. So people might kind of be silenced at some point if they carry on disagreeing with the government on this. Oh, matter of fact, they just passed some interesting legislation in Scotland. Check out Dankula's channel. But the last one, and this is the juicy one, because this goes with the protests that were happening the other day. Article 11, freedom of assembly is association. Everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and to freedom of association with others, including the right to form and join trade unions for the protection of his interest. You know what's coming. No restriction shall be placed on the exercise of these rights other than such as are prescribed by law and are necessary in a democratic society in the interest of national security or public safety, for the prevention of disorder or crime, for the protection of health. Now, as I say again, everything is linked in the description. Please, 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 go check for yourself, go read for yourself, read it. When you will be discussing this with a friend, I don't want you to say, oh, I've heard it from some guy on the internet. No, you've heard it from some guy on the internet, and when you're going to talk to someone, if they ask you, this is not possible, you're going to say, I have read the legislation, this is how it is. Now, what are rights? Rights is something that you have, is something that are yours. Human rights. When you have a right to something that is yours to exercise, it's something that cannot be taken away from you. Why? Because if it can be taken away from you, it's not a right anymore, it's a concession. So, when you read the convention, the European Convention for Human Rights, what you read there is you have the right to do such and such unless you don't. We don't. At the moment, until they keep telling us that there is a medical emergency, all our rights are suspended. We have none. They haven't clamped down hard for the simple reason that they are getting us used to removing our liberties time, little at a time. And one thing that that I like to repeat is, uh, oh God, give me a sec, sorry, I'm drawing a blank now. There is nothing as permanent as a temporary government measure. Beg your pardon there. I draw a blank. Honestly, it's one of my favorite bits, and it just went for a moment. Anyway, what does the government do? This is at all levels. They died just that's just died in Oxford. They come up with this zero emission zone where they're going to charge us through our nose if we don't have an electric vehicle because we have to comply with what they want. And and all the time they've been promoting the zero emission zone. They were like, "Oh, this is just experimental. This is just temporary. We're just gonna have a look. We're just gonna try it out. We're just gonna see how it goes." And we want to hear what you think and all of that. But it's just gonna be a temporary thing. Honestly, just to try it out. Promise, promise. Yeah, yeah. It's just a very temporary thing. So they've done all their discussion and everything. The moment they managed to push it, just the other day on the website they were like, oh, so finally we managed to pass this thing, and so now we're going to widen the scheme. They just passed it all the way just to convince the people that were like, oh, this is temporary, this is temporary, this is temporary. And the moment they passed it, it became a permanent thing and going to widen it. It's the government, is how they roll. They lie to you. Seriously, ask yourself, do you want to trust the government? Do you trust Boris Johnson? Do you really want to? You really want to tell me that you believe that he's doing this for our own good? Ah, yeah, that's why he's given all the contracts to his mates and his cronies. Yeah, honestly, if you really believe that the government is doing what he's doing for your own good, you really want to get in touch with me. I got a bridge to sell you. Now, the biggest problem at this point is that you're thinking, oh yeah, but this is just a temporary thing. You still believe that it's temporary, even though history taught us that every time they say it's temporary, they made it permanent. And I'm going to bring example. I was watching earlier a video from Computing Forever. He has an interesting channel. You might want to check it out. Again, I'll put a link in the description. And the government has just recently opened an advertising a contract for an advertising campaign for a multimedia advertising campaign. It was open on the 18th of March, and they are offering this contract. Basically, it's going to be this advertising campaign to advertise to promote COVID-19, and is going to run from the 1st of April 2021 for 2 years. So it's funny enough that they know now already that this is going to last at least for the next 2 years. They've already told us that for this year, 2021, we don't really want to travel. This is going to be the new normal, and we are going to see more strains. Uh, I'm going to stop here, but think about it. Which part of what I said sounds temporary to you? Because it sounds to me like this situation, which started as 3 weeks to flatten the curve. A year later, we're already been promised that it's going to last another 2 years. So we went from 3 weeks to 3 months to 3 years. Already, for the next 3 years, for the next two, well, at least three, we have no right. None whatsoever. You think this is bad enough? No, it's getting worse. There is an interesting bill that is being debated in the States, and again, link in description. It's Kentucky Bill 211. This is about disqualifying people from receiving public assistance benefit in case they insult police officer. Say you go to a protest and you're shouting "pig, pig, pig" like happened at many protests. It's nothing, no, nothing unusual, nothing you haven't heard before, nothing they haven't seen before and heard before. But all of a sudden, you are insulting a police officer, and they can take your benefits away from you. And think about this, because this is something that I've been trying to warn people, well, in person for the past year. What they have done, they have shut all the businesses. Now nothing is going on. Only all the big corporations are going. Anything small and small entity. Lots of people are at home on benefits because all this money is coming from the money. Well, it's coming from us. It's being paid for the government. So we don't realize how much we're going to pay us afterward, but this is paid by us. This is started in the States, but they could take a page out of their book and decide that if you protest, you don't get benefits anymore. If you don't comply, you don't get benefits anymore. You're thinking that the government is nice and giving you all these benefits. Yeah, they can take them away. Enjoy, chaps.